He had yachts, private jets, and eyes only for me. I wasn't supposed to be there, let alone become the center of his world, but I let him in, only to show him what real love looks like. And it wasn't with him. This question mark. This is my story. Before we dive in, if you've ever been underestimated, misjudged, or told you're too much, stick around. This story is for you. Like, comment if you've ever shocked someone just by being yourself. Subscribe if you're ready to hear how I turned the game around on a billionaire. I grew up in a little apartment that always smelled like whatever my mum was cooking. Mostly rice, beans, and whatever meat was on sale that week. It wasn't fancy. We didn't have much, but we had enough. My mum was a single mother who worked long hours cleaning houses, and when she got home, she still found the strength to help me with my homework. I remember watching her hands, cracked from chemicals and calloused from scrubbing, and thinking, I'm going to make this all worth it someday. She never said life was easy, but she did say we could still choose who we became, even when the world didn't give us a head start. By the time I hit my 20s, I was working 2 jobs and studying in between. I'd hustle in the mornings, serve drinks at night, and try to squeeze my dreams into the cracks in between. Love? Dating? That wasn't even on my radar. Not because I didn't want it, but because I'd seen what it looked like when women gave everything and got nothing in return. I wasn't about to lose myself chasing someone else's validation. I was building something, for me, for the little girl I used to be, and for the woman I was becoming. I carried my independence like armor. I didn't need saving, didn't want pity, and definitely didn't believe in fairy tales. I believed in plans, in progress, and in staying grounded even when life tried to sweep me off my feet. I wasn't cold, I was focused, but still, some part of me, quiet and tucked away, wondered what it would be like to be seen. Not for the mask I wore to survive, but for the soul I'd kept guarded. I didn't know it yet, but that question was about to change everything. It started on a weekend I almost said no to. A friend had an extra invite to a gallery opening downtown, one of those swanky, you got to know someone kind of events. I wasn't in the mood. I'd just finished a double shift, my feet were swollen, and I had no interest in sipping champagne with people who couldn't spell minimum wage. But something told me to go. Maybe it was the way my friend said, "Girl, you need a night where someone treats you like art." So I went. He saw me before I saw him. I was standing near this huge painting. Honestly, I didn't understand it, but I pretended like I did. Then he walked up. Tall, clean-cut, smooth like he was born in a custom suit. His presence didn't shout money, it whispered it. Like he didn't need to prove anything, because the world already bent for him. He started talking to me like I was the most interesting thing in the room. Not the painting, not the models. Me. I kept it cool, I always do. But in the back of my mind, I was trying to figure out what someone like him wanted with someone like me. Still, he was charming, confident, but not arrogant. He asked real questions, listened, laughed at my sarcasm instead of getting offended. And just like that, a door I didn't even know was closed, cracked open. I left that night thinking it was just a moment, a good story for later, but then he called, texted, asked to see me again, and I realized this man wasn't just flirting, he was pursuing, and not like a man chasing something pretty, like someone who saw a prize he didn't expect, but now had to win. Before I knew it, my life started to shift. He moved with this effortless kind of energy, like he belonged everywhere, and somehow he started making space for me in that world too. One week, it was dinner at a rooftop restaurant with a view of the whole city. The next, it was tickets to an art show in Milan. I kept waiting for the catch, for the fine print, for that moment where he'd show me who he really was beneath all the shine. But instead, he just kept showing up. He sent flowers, full arrangements, not grocery store bundles. Left handwritten notes that made me blush, made me feel seen, and not in a your beautiful kind of way. More like, I notice how your voice changes when you talk about your mom. I like that about you. That kind of way. I'd never been around that kind of money. Private jets, custom everything. Rooms full of people who smiled like they'd never worried about rent a day in their lives. At first, I felt like I was just visiting someone else's dream. Like I had to walk carefully, speak softly, make myself small so I wouldn't break anything. But he kept pulling me closer, making it feel like maybe, just maybe, I belonged there too. Then came the words. Quiet, soft, but certain. I'm falling for you. I didn't say it back. I couldn't. I smiled, thanked him, kissed him even. But in my chest, something stirred. I liked him. A lot. But love wasn't something I gave easily. I'd built walls, and no matter how golden his world was, I couldn't tell if what I was feeling was love or just the illusion of safety wrapped in silk. It all changed during a trip home. Nothing fancy, just a weekend back in the neighborhood where people still left their shoes by the door and sat on porches, like time wasn't chasing them. I hadn't been back in months. I'd been so wrapped up in his world, I forgot how grounding mine was. The air smelled like fried fish and jasmine. Kids were running wild in the streets. And for the first time in a long time, I felt real. Not curated, not elevated, just me. That weekend, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Someone from before the trips, before the gifts, before I knew the price of designer heels. He wasn't flashy, didn't say the right things, didn't have an entourage or a driver waiting outside. But he looked at me like I hadn't changed. Like the girl with big dreams and hand-me-down jeans still mattered, and that did something to me. We talked, just talked, laughed about the past, swapped stories, caught up like no time had passed. There was no performance, no trying to impress, just presence. And it hit me. I hadn't felt that kind of ease in a long time. With the Billionaire, every moment felt like something out of a movie. But this felt like breathing. When I went back to my luxury apartment, things felt off, too clean, too quiet, too much space, but not enough warmth. I looked around and realized I was surrounded by everything I thought I wanted, but missing the one thing I didn't know I needed. Connection, not attention, not admiration, just someone who saw me before the gloss, before the glow-up. Someone who didn't fall for the version of me that looked good in photos, but the one who existed when no one was watching. He noticed the shift before I ever said a word. Billionaires don't miss much, especially when something they care about starts slipping through their fingers. At first, he asked gentle questions. Are you okay? Is something wrong? The kind that sound sweet but carry an edge. I told him I was just tired, busy, in my head. But the truth was, my heart was already somewhere else, and I didn't know how to pretend anymore. He started trying harder. More gifts, more trips. A surprise weekend in the Maldives that I should have been excited about, but all I could think about was how far I was from who I used to be. I wasn't ungrateful. I just felt out of place in my own life. And it hurt, because he wasn't a bad man. He was generous, thoughtful, and sincere in his affection. But sometimes, love just isn't enough when it's not the right kind. The night I told him was one of the hardest things I've ever done. We sat in his penthouse, city lights glowing behind us, like we were in some kind of modern fairy tale. I held my wine glass, like it could shield me from what I was about to say. I care about you, deeply, but I don't think this is my forever. His face didn't move at first, just stillness, then a small nod, quiet, measured, but his eyes, those betrayed him. He looked gutted, and I hated that I was the reason. He asked me if there was someone else. I didn't lie. I told him there was someone who reminded me of who I am, not just who I could become. He didn't try to convince me, maybe because deep down, he already knew. You can't buy someone's soul, not even with $1 billion. It didn't feel like falling at first. It felt like remembering, like waking up in your own bed after sleeping somewhere unfamiliar for too long. With him, the one who wasn't rich, but somehow felt more valuable than anything. I didn't have to perform. I didn't have to dress up my thoughts or shrink my feelings. I could just be. And being seen in that raw, unfiltered way. That was intimacy I hadn't known I was missing. We'd sit on his porch late at night just talking. No glitz, no champagne, just warm tea and cold air. He asked me about things no one else did. About my dreams before they were coated in gold. About my fears. About the version of myself I left behind when I started climbing. With him, it wasn't about escape. It was about return. There was a night, we were sitting in silence, listening to music playing from his phone, and he reached for my hand. Nothing fancy, no grand gesture, just fingers intertwining like they belonged there. And it hit me in that quiet moment. This was what love felt like. Not loud, not extravagant, just true, comfortable, honest. We weren't rushing. There was no need to. Everything unfolded slowly, like it had all the time in the world. I stopped looking for signs, or comparing it to the life I walked away from. This new love didn't come wrapped in diamonds, but it came with peace, with understanding, with the kind of loyalty that doesn't shout, it shows. I felt my heart grow softer with him, less guarded. I laughed more, breathed deeper, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't wondering if I was enough. I knew I was, because he loved me for who I already was, not who I might become. He never begged. That wasn't his style. But he didn't let go easily either. A few weeks after I ended things, he reached out, polite, casual, like he just wanted to check in. I knew what it really was. He was hoping there was still a door cracked open, hoping maybe I'd changed my mind. I hadn't, but I owed him the truth, not silence. So I agreed to meet him. One last time. We sat in a quiet corner of a downtown lounge, far from the crowds and cameras. He looked the same, tailored suit, flawless watch, cool confidence. But something in his eyes had shifted. Less control, more ache. He asked how I was, and I told him honestly. I told him I felt peace now, that I was grounded, that I was seeing someone who made me feel whole in a way I didn't know I was missing. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He nodded, like he was trying to be the bigger person. And then he asked if he could still be part of my life, even just as a friend. I told him I didn't think that would be fair to anyone. Not to me, not to the new man in my life, and not to him. That honesty stung, but it was necessary. Weeks later, he saw us together. I know because he sent a single message. You look happy. I stared at those 3 words for a long time. There was no bitterness in them, just finality. And maybe, in some quiet part of him, respect. He had fallen for the idea of me, the woman he thought he could build a life with. But the real me, the girl from the small apartment, the woman who needed truth over luxury, that version never truly belonged in his world. And as much as he gave me, I gave him something too. A reminder that some hearts can't be bought, only earned. And when they're earned, you don't have to chase them. They stay because they want to. And I had found someone worth staying for. Looking back now, it all makes sense in a way that it didn't when I was in it. I used to think love had to look a certain way, polished, expensive, wrapped in shiny things and big gestures, that if someone offered you the world, you were supposed to take it and say thank you. But I've learned that not every gift is meant for you. Some things glitter but don't glow. Some people love you with all they have, but it's still not what your soul needs to grow. As a Black woman, I've walked through life being told I had to settle. For less attention, less grace, less softness, that I should be grateful for any seat at the table, even if it was at the very edge. But I stopped accepting crumbs a long time ago. I learned to build my own table, to serve myself first, And in doing that, I became someone who couldn't be dazzled by gold because I knew my value before anyone tried to name it. What I had with the billionaire, it was real in its own way, but it was rooted in admiration, not alignment. He loved the way I made him feel, the way I lit up his world. But the man I chose, he loved me even when the lights were off, even when I was tired, uncertain, messy, human. I don't regret any of it. Not the luxury, not the heartbreak, not even the hard conversations. Every piece of it showed me who I was, what I wanted, and most importantly, what I'd never trade again. I found power in walking away from what wasn't mine, and grace in walking towards something real. Because love, when it's true, doesn't ask you to change. It sees you, stays with you, and grows with you. And I choose that every single time. If you've ever had to choose between comfort and your truth, drop a heart in the comments. And if you know your worth, even when others don't, go ahead and hit that like. Subscribe for more real stories from women who love loudly, leave boldly, and never settle.